The Whispering Woods of Nilgiris. Vikram, Riya, Arjun, and Meera had always been adventure seekers. From trekking in the Himalayas to diving in the Andamans, they had done it all. But the stories of the Whispering Woods in the Nilgiris had always intrigued them. It was a place shrouded in mystery, a dense part of the forest where locals refused to venture after dusk. There were tales of disappearances, of strange whispers carried by the wind, and of something lurking in the darkness, hungry and unseen. Ignoring the warnings of the villagers, they decided to explore it. After all, they had never been ones to believe in ghost stories. The beginning of the nightmare. The four friends arrived at a small village near the forest's edge. It was a quiet place, with old cottages, mist curling around the thatched roofs. As they prepared the gear, an old man approached them. "You shouldn't go there," he rasped, his voice weak yet firm. "The forest doesn't like outsiders. It keeps them." Arjun chuckled. "Come on, uncle, you can't scare us with bedtime stories." The old man's gaze was grim. "You'll hear whispers. No matter what they say, don't answer them. And whatever you do, don't stay after dark." Shrugging off his words, the group entered the forest just as the sun started its descent. The air turned colder as they went deeper. Towering trees formed a thick canopy overhead, blocking out most of the daylight. The ground was soft, littered with fallen leaves and damp soil. A strange silence hung in the air. No birds, no insects, just the distant rustling of leaves. Then came the first whisper. A faint, almost imperceptible voice carried by the wind. "Turn back, you don't belong here." Meera stopped in her tracks. "Did you hear that?" Vikram frowned. "The wind, maybe." Riya shook her head. "No. That was a voice." They pressed on, determined to prove the villagers wrong. But the deeper they went, the more distorted reality seemed to become. The trees looked twisted, their bark resembling grotesque, gnarled faces. Shadows moved, though there was nothing to cast them. Then, the whispers turned into giggles. Low, cruel chuckles echoing from every direction. A sudden scream ripped through the silence. Meera spun around. Riya was gone. The vanishing. Panic set in. "Riya!" Vikram shouted, his voice swallowed by the forest. A rustling sound came from the left. Vikram rushed forward, pushing through thick undergrowth, only to find nothing. No footprints. No sign of struggle. Just emptiness. The whispers intensified. Now, they called the names. Vikram, Meera, Arjun. It was Riya's voice, but it came from above. Slowly, they lifted their heads. There, tangled in the branches, was Riya, her body twisted at an unnatural angle, eyes wide open, her mouth stretched in a silent scream. Blood dripped from her torn fingers, her nails broken as if she had tried to claw her way free. A grotesque shape slithered behind her, shifting in and out of the shadows. Then, she vanished. Just like that. The descent into madness. Meera was the first to snap. She bolted, blindly running through the trees, heedless of Vikram and Arjun's shouts. She didn't get far. A wet, gurgling sound echoed from the dark. When they reached her, she was on her knees, her hands clutching her throat. Blood poured from her mouth, her wide eyes filled with terror. Something had sliced open her throat, but there was no one there. Arjun fell back, shaking his head. "No, no, this isn't real." Meera collapsed, her body convulsing before going still. The light left her eyes. Then, her lips twitched into a smile. And she whispered, "You are next. The hunt begins." Vikram and Arjun ran. Branches clawed at their skin, the whispers turning into shrieks. Something was chasing them. Its heavy, wet breathing just behind them. Arjun tripped. Vikram turned, reaching out, but something yanked Arjun into the darkness. His screams were short-lived. And then, silence. Vikram stood frozen, his heart pounding. He was alone, or so he thought. A hand, cold, bony, touched his shoulder. He turned. The horror revealed. It was Riya, but not Riya. Her eyes were black voids, her skin ashen. Blood oozed from her mouth as she grinned. "They are waiting," she whispered. Hands erupted from the ground, grabbing Vikram's ankles, pulling him down. He screamed, kicking, struggling, but they were too strong. The last thing he saw was the grinning faces of his friends. Twisted, monstrous, laughing, as the earth swallowed him whole. The forest grew silent once more. By dawn, there was no trace of them. Just the trees, the mist, and the whispers, always the whispers. And the villagers, who never spoke of those who were lost, only shook their heads and whispered. The forest doesn't like outsiders. It keeps them. Stay tuned in for new stories every day from around the world.